Don't walk into office, shed your real personality like an overcoat and leave it hanging at the door.
Welcome back to Let's Ascend, a channel where you get perspectives on rising up in your personal and professional life. My today's guest is a corporate rock star, Krishnan Chatterjee. Krishnan has had over 25 years of corporate career where he's worked across organizations like ITC, HCL and SAP. Krishnan is an unconventional marketing genius who's created terrific impact in every organization that he's worked. Not only this, Krishnan is a supremely talented musician, a singer, songwriter, composer, performer. Krishnan rocks the stage every time he gets onto it. And he's been part of some really cool musical properties, which includes a band called Spasm, a band called Contraband, a band called Cocktail, and a duo team called Fix the Six. I told you he's unconventional, right? During my conversation, Krishnan shared 5 extremely valuable leadership lessons that helped him rise up in his corporate journey. And to conclude this video, Krishnan sang a beautiful Bengali song from a Satyajit Ray movie. So I hope you enjoy this video as much as I did recording it for you. So welcome, Krishnan. Thank you so much for taking out time for Let's Ascend. It's a pleasure to have you with us. May I request you to begin by telling us about your journey? What all have you done so far in life?
I would say I've had 2 journeys. One's a career journey and one's a passion journey. And both sort of go hand in hand, actually, wherever I've been. So let me start with the career journey, which, given your shirt, looks like the right place to begin. So I did an economics degree from Presidency College in Calcutta, followed by an MBA. And after that, I joined a wonderful organization called ITC, where I spent almost a decade. And having done lots of FMCG, towards the end of the decade, I suddenly realized that Adam Smith's invisible hand was playing out in India through the IT industry. So this was around 2004. So I said, let me take that plunge. Let me go make that hand visible, if at all possible. And I was a sales and marketing guy from FMCG, obviously, where marketing is a lead function. With this idealistic thought, when I entered an organization called HCL Technologies, which is probably where I learned the most, I realized that in IT services, marketing is the back office of the back office. So really speaking, it was about $700 million at that time as a company. It had maybe 2 or 3 people in marketing whose job was to download analyst reports and give it to sales guys and pre-sales guys to respond to RFPs. So from there, I was fortunate enough that a gentleman called Vineet Nair took over at HCL as the CEO. And Vineet is somebody that, anybody who gets a chance to work with, it's quite amazing. Vineet Nair is one journey you should really explore, because that is a for-real journey with great achievement along it. But I was part of his journey. That was great. The company went from 700 million to 7 billion in the next 6 odd years. And I was fortunate enough to build their marketing function. And towards the end of my stint there, I was part of building their digital business unit, which today is doing rather well. So it sales crossed 10 billion and is actually now number 3 in the Indian pantheon. So from there, and as usual, my life's journey has always moved on a whim. And just like the invisible hand was the HCL whim, I joined SAP because building HCL's digital business meant I was spending a lot of time in the US. And I suddenly realized, I do need to work in an organization where the market I target is also the country I live in. So I joined SAP India as their to run marketing for them, and somewhere along the way in that journey, I also became their chief customer officer for the Indian subcontinent. So that was quite interesting. And my final whim, the one I'm playing out right now, is I've joined a startup. It's called Markets and Markets. I see a lot of purpose in the fact that Markets and Markets actually does research in a way that clients can build their growth journeys or can figure out their growth strategies, and that I found fascinating. So here I am on my most recent whim, and we'll see where it takes me tomorrow. So that's really the professional journey. The musical journey or my passion journey is, I would say, is the journey of failure. So while in college, I had a band. It was called Spasm. It was created by a bunch of doctors at Calcutta National Medical College, and apparently they named the band by opening their medical dictionary at a random page, and there was some spasmological something which popped up, and they chose the name. So we had some fun in college. Then I joined ITC. So ITC, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do my music because you keep getting transferred. Though I was in Bombay for a while, and I set up some musical properties in Bombay and did lots of jams. But finally, when in HCL, I was able to, become part of a band called Contraband. And we spent quite a few years making music, writing music, which finally culminated in producing an album. The album's called Currency by Contraband. It's available on any streaming platform. And having done all of that, I think the band basically reached its pinnacle by producing an album which the sum total of 10 people have heard. And then I imploded musically, and the lockdown happened. So I started playing some music on the staircase of my apartment. And in that journey, which I call the Fix the Six journey, 6 being the floor I live in, 6 also being your back. So, let's fix what's behind our back was the core idea. That's also been interesting. So, yeah, so lots of interesting things in both my journeys.
So you've been extremely modest in saying that your journey in music has been a failure. I mean, I wish I had that kind of a failure in musical journey. And you kill it every time you get onto stage, and I've seen you in SAP on stage, and you have a cult following, man.
I think, Vishal, all my principles are at the Venn diagram intersection of both these worlds, right? So the music and the corporate world. So I would say, let me talk about maybe 5 principles which sort of, drive everything I think about. So I call it the create, not just consume principle. And that really is a very fundamental way I have of looking at life. And obviously that comes from the musician as well as the... So I would say, in my work style and in my music style, and that's why possibly I call myself a failure in music, because I haven't created enough, and what I've created has not made the sort of impact that, successful people would make. So consumption is not what drives me, and which also means in the corporate world, I don't like passengers. I don't like people who just, keep the wheels running. They're critical people, so let me not be as dismissive as saying I don't like them. But I prefer the company of people who build and create new things. I think an allied is the principle too, which is a great belief in outcomes. So how many hours somebody spends doing anything is not really of much relevance to the way I lead my life. Paraphrasing Napoleon when he said, I like lucky generals. It's almost like saying, you may not spend a lot of time doing something, but if you understand how to drive an outcome in anything that you are a part of, that I value greatly. So I'll give you an example. In HCL, I was building a team called Team 360, which was basically doing creative work, graphics, copy. So it was like our internal ad agency. But the big problem I was seeing in a team like that, and this is where the outcomes and the process starts creating challenges. So they're set up to, do presentations, proposal submissions, graphic quality, digital design, audio visuals, all that kind of work. The sales teams were using these services profligately. So as part of the transaction in the process, this team was doing an enormous amount of work. But when I sought to justify their value, I was having a difficult time, because if a lot of video production work is happening for largely unqualified pipeline, then end of the day, you're not winning those deals. So it's difficult to see, why did I do, say, 100,000 hours of video production in a year? So what I did with that team is I made them into a P&L. So every service that they delivered came with a price. So that same video now costs you $5,000. And when a salesperson came, we would debit that cost from their cost center and credit it to the Team 360 cost center. So suddenly Team 360 became a P&L. And after that, the productivity levels, the impact levels of the team dramatically changed. So I found the minute you redesign for outcome, the process becomes more relevant. Being quite authentic to yourself. So one of the things I believe in both worlds is, and especially in the world of office, is don't walk into office, shed your real personality like an overcoat and leave it hanging at the door. Warts and all, walk to your desk, and that's beautiful. That whole real authentic experience of who you are. And that's when you bring everything to the work that you do. And I think you have seen consequences that I have generated by sharing that thought in certain audiences. For instance, I was called to give a sort of a keynote address to the new hires of one of the top of the line firms, and clearly a firm where networking is of prime importance. And as the CHRO watched on in utter dismay, I went on to respond to a question from one of the youngsters on the importance of networking by telling them networking, is garbage, and it's just a betrayal of yourself if the reason you engage with somebody else is because you expect to get something out of it. And I have never been called back to that firm for any reason whatsoever. One of my strong beliefs in leadership, both when I see myself as a leader, or I see my leaders as leaders, or my colleagues as leaders, is I detest the aggregator style of leadership, and I love the value-centric style of leadership. And the aggregator style is the traditional hierarchical leader who takes reports, punches them together, and pushes it upwards. So that really does not add significant value by themselves. To me, the value-centric leader is the person who can coach, mentor, do the stuff as well as the team, or play the game along with them. And your team members must be able to say that I have gained because of your presence. You have added a lot of value to me. This is something that I learned in one of the deals I was doing at HCL with the Olympics, the International Olympics Association. And the head of that association, where we were trying to do a deal to become the sponsor of the tech sponsor of the Olympics while providing them services, a role Atos Origin plays, as you might be aware. And finally, though we quoted maybe about half of what that sponsorship arrangement finally came to, that guy still was fighting on our behalf with their board and committee and all of that. And I'd asked him, his name was Ethan. I asked him, Ethan, why are you so keen on working with us? And he had said, when we do work like this, such complex work. So at that time, London was about to go live. So you have the IOC, you have the local Olympics committee, the LOCOG at that time. You have global sponsors, you have local sponsors. You have so many moving parts that the only way these kind of arrangements succeed is when you work with good people. One brand comes and says, my color, my logo there, here, and the whole house of cards can collapse. So, it's good to work with good people because that's when the greatest things get achieved. So that's another belief I have. If at all you have an opportunity, always be a good person yourself, which means have the humility, empathy to act in that fashion and work with good people to the extent possible.
And now, Krishnan, there's a tradition that we follow in Let's Ascend, which is that we conclude each video with a musical interpretation of either your journey or the life principles you believe in. And our audience would love to hear a song from you.
Firstly, this song is a Bengali song, and it's from a Satyajit Ray movie. I think all our lives, or at least all my life, has been about getting to freedom on multiple dimensions. So Ray had this, film called Gupi Gain Bagha Bain, which was actually about a singer who couldn't sing and a drummer who couldn't drum, who were both tarred and feathered and thrown out of their village. And they met in a jungle, and the jungle was haunted. And in their fear, they started doing what they do best, which is tuneless singing and broken beat drumming. And their caterwauling was so appealing to the king of ghosts that he granted them 3 boons. So basically the 3 boons was they could eat whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. They could travel wherever they wanted instantaneously. And when they sang and played, people would be utterly mesmerized. And one of the seminal moments in my life was when the singer actually woke up in the morning after that mad night. And then he went and he found this little lake, or more like a pond in West Bengal. And on the banks of the pond, he started trying his voice out and he sang a song based on Rag Bhairavi. Ray has had a very deep impact on me, I must say, on both sides. Like both journeys I talk about, the biggest influence was probably Ray. One was because of a film he did called Shima Baddho, which was about a successful corporate executive who fell on bad times. And really seeing that lifestyle was probably what triggered my economic freedom movement towards the corporate world. And the other was this whole Gupi Gain Hirok Rajat Deshe series. The song I'll sing for you, Vishal, is called Nohi Jantro Ami Prani, which means I'm not a machine, I'm a human being. And it's sung in Hirok Rajat Deshe, where these two, Gupi and Bagha, who then become fighters for the oppressed. Nohi Jantro Nohi jantro, ami prani. Nohi jantro, ami prani. Ami jani, ami jani, ami jani, ami jani, ami jani. Hirok Rajar Shoetani Jani Jani Aja Onacharer Shima Chede Raja Onacharer Shima Chede Abhagare Bhate Mere Ane Deshe Ghoramunga Ebare Raja Shono Ebare Raja Shono Je যেন নিস্তার নেই কোনো। এসেছে তোমার জম, তুমি রাজা অক্ষম। এসেছে তোমার জম, তুমি রাজা অক্ষম। মরণে দিন তুমি হলো রাজা, মরণে দিন তুমি হলো রাজা। ধিক 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 রাজা, ধিক 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 রাজা, ধিক